Dubious ones, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to give you my feedback and my reasons as a hardcore Destiny player as to why I stopped playing Destiny 2, and mainly speaking, of course, about PvP. So, first of all, to give you a little bit of reference here, I am a little bit of a Destiny veteran. What do I mean? Well, let me show you what I mean right here. So if we go over and show you on the Xbox here, as I was an Xbox player, for original base Destiny 1. I know I can't really zoom in on this, but if you can see this, this says my time played here is 137 days, 13 hours and 13 minutes just in Destiny 1 alone. So for reference, that's 3,300 hours I have put in to Destiny 1, just Destiny 1 from when it launched to when Destiny 2 launched. 3,300 hours and 13 minutes. Now, if we want to go over to Destiny 2, let's go over here and search Destiny 2. So, Destiny 2 on just on console. This is Xbox Series X only, and not or an Xbox One, not including. This does not include PC whatsoever. But we have 127 days, 10 hours, and 31 minutes on Xbox Series X alone. So let's go 127 days times 24 hours. So, and then add the extra 10 hours. So we have 3,058 hours and 31 minutes on Xbox, just on console. And now let's bring up the Steam numbers. On PC, I have 3,615 hours, 3,615.3 hours. So let's add that for a total of 6,673 hours in Destiny 2. Why am I showing you this? Because I played this game all the time. This was all I played for the longest time. Destiny 2 was all I cared about, and I didn't care for PvE. I played this game strictly for the PvP. I played PvE content, of course, because you had to get better guns, better gear, everything you want to be able to play and do better in PvP. But my biggest issue was in Destiny 1, didn't have friends to play this game with after by the time the Taken King came out. All my friends that got the game at launch had dropped off by that point. So what do? You go to LFGs, you find new friends. So I found friends that I played Destiny 1 with for years and eventually even got into raiding in Destiny 1, which was very cool as a PvP only player, getting into some of those raids, getting to beat Crota, getting to beat Atheon, getting to play those raids was a really huge thing for me. It was a lot of fun. Coming to Destiny 2, again, very excited. Once it released on PC, getting the better frame rates and all that was amazing. But then I switched eventually back to Series X, and I will show you why here. So the reason I switched back to Xbox Series X, as you can see, this is just my trials report here. I guess these were the people I played with the last time I played any Trials of Osiris. But I eventually got to 125 flawlesses, which if you played or saw my Destiny 1 stats, I never went flawless once in Destiny 1. So in Destiny 2, I managed to go 125 times with a fairly decent KD. But as you'll see here by seasons, if we go, see, I haven't played it all in the last few seasons. Barely played it all in seasons 22, 21, 20. Okay, I played a bit in season 20. Then season 19, I was playing a lot. Season 18, not as much. Season 17, I played quite a bit. And then, of course, season 16, I played like crazy. Season 15 as well. But when Trials of Osiris first came back to Destiny 2, I was playing on PC, and the problem we had on PC was there was nothing but cheaters. You would always run into cheaters. The anti-cheat was absolute trash at those points. That I wasn't also necessarily the best PvP player. I'll put that straight out there. especially trying to learn mouse and keyboard, eventually going back to controller, going back and forth, kind of playing on both inputs. But coming in and never having played mouse and keyboard before Destiny 2 was a new thing. So I'm not saying I was the greatest player in the world by any stretch. But as you see, as soon as I went from PC being in season 10 and 11 here, this was, and season 11 being mostly PC, I believe, if not all, and then switching in season 12, this is when I switched to Xbox Series X. Why did I switch to Series X? Because once the Series X came out, we were able to play PvP at 120 frames per second. We were able to get over 60 in the base game, and that was my biggest thing. That was why I played on PC, was for the field of view slider and the FPS. That's why I left 30 FPS behind and I moved to PC. Once it was nothing but cheaters on PC and you could not go through a card without running into one, if not several teams that were cheating with aimbots, hacks, everything else. It just got frustrating for me as a PvP player. It wasn't fun to play. It was a losing cause for me. So I left a lot of my PC friends behind at that point and switched back over to Xbox. And as you can see, I did okay KD wise, switching over to Xbox One or to Series X, but my flawlesses didn't reflect that because I didn't have a solid team. Once I got a couple of solid teammates to play with, I started doing a little better, but then players started dropping off. PvP got less fun. We played a little bit, then they got a revamp to Trials, and then we had, I believe this is when they revamped Trials to where they had that one weekend where it had 800,000 players. Everybody was excited. The revamped Trials of Osiris was here, and we just had some great times, I remember, in Season 15. But as time went on, as you can see, I myself, along with a lot of other players, played less and less and less matches, less and less games, and then they brought in the flawless pool and everything else. I believe the flawless pool actually came in season 15, if not season 16, and things changed. But as you can see here, I slowly but surely stopped playing Trials of Osiris. Now, Trials of Osiris to me here was my biggest draw to PvP in Destiny 2 after they brought it back. It was a fun thing I could do with friends every weekend. As a team, we'd have fun, and it was a reason to hop on every weekend, and it was based on loot. You needed to have the carrot on the end of the stick to bring players in and give them a reason to play. And as the player base dwindled and dwindled and dwindled, you ended up just playing sweatier and sweatier cards, sweatier matches. And they did a number of changes whether it was card-based matchmaking, whether it was win-based matchmaking, whether they had the flawless pool, they didn't have the flawless pool. Some weeks they'd have whatever they called the solo trials, where you could have the solo queues only playing against each other. And then eventually the meta became you're only stacking in teams of two and you get a random on your team because they made it so 3 stacks were against each other and then the 2 stacks and the solos were together. So they did many iterations to try and mess around with the trials recipe, right? To really try and make it right for fans. But what really, really soured me on PvP as a whole was we went essentially outside of the very smallest changes, like I said, to matchmaking and stuff in Trials of Osiris. We got years of neglect. As a PvP player to this game, we got years where we got no new maps, no new game modes, nothing but maybe the odd sandbox balancing pass, maybe once per season, maybe twice at most, you would get a balance pass, and that was all the refresh you got for PvP. Obviously, as you can see from this footage here, when they introduced things like stasis and you had Shatter Dive running amok everywhere, being able to just blow up entire teams with a single Shatter Dive, things got crazy, and that would be the only real refresher you got to PvP at all in this game. Now, why is this a problem? Well, for me, as a PvP-centric player, I love Destiny 1 because Destiny was something so fresh and so new where you would play PvE and get this new crazy gun with different abilities. Nobody knew what the abilities did yet, there was no defined meta early on. It was basically just auto rifles and shotguns. Basically, like special weapons, fusion rifles were crazy because they could map you from 30 meters, and it was just, you would get these guns, you wouldn't know how good they would be, but you get to try them out in PvP, find out something's really, really crazy, like a Suros regime or a Vex Mythoclast in those early weeks, or my favorite, like the Pocket Infinity when it was all busted. They had lots of crazy things back in the day in Destiny that made PvP this really unique experience. But outside of Trials of Osiris on a competitive side for Destiny, what I really enjoyed most about PvP and what most of my Destiny 1 PvP playing experience was, as well as a good chunk of my Destiny 2, was really just playing Control or playing like the 3 or 6 man game types with friends, just casually, where we would either run as a stack of like, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and we would either run over teams or we would get run over. But the fun of it is there was no strict matchmaking. Throughout different times, they messed around with matchmaking, and I think the biggest problem they ever did was they got rid of, for long periods of time, just having a casual, fun playlist where there was no strict matchmaking. It was just the casual, Wild West, connection-based matchmaking. So if you were a stack, it would be ideally you'd play against other teams, but there was no strict matchmaking that was forcing you into sweating matches all the time. Because once they did that, Control became the unplayable playlist. It became not fun at all, because if you had different varying skill levels on your team, for your team, then the lower end of the skill tree would quickly just not have any fun in the game. And it eventually became a sweat fest where the top 1 or 2 players on your team would be able to have an okay time, but it would be up to them to carry every single game. And the rest of the team just wouldn't have any fun. So a lot of my friends, again, being PvE centric or having even the PvP centric ones, all eventually fell off before I did. Seasons and seasons before. And I'm talking about players that I had played Destiny with for 4, 5, 6, 7 years at this point, that we played all the time together. And it was, again, we might play Trials together on the weekend and break up into different teams, but we'd often play, 6-man Control, 6-man Iron Banner. That stuff was fun. In Destiny 1, Skirmish was a fun game mode that I don't know why they never brought back. But it's just, there's so many things where in Destiny 1, PvP would get as many updates as PvP would get as many updates as PvE. And I don't know what the methodology was or what the thought process was. I'm guessing it's when they made Destiny 2 free to play is really when it seems like they stopped putting anything into all the free to play modes. So you weren't getting any love in the Strikes playlist, you weren't getting any love in Gambit, and you weren't getting any love in Crucible. And I think that was the thing that hurt PvP the most, was Destiny 2 going free to play. Because you have to have all maps and all the stuff available to all players, otherwise you're fragmenting your player base. So for the best PvP experience, you have to have everything free to everybody. So with the fact that they weren't monetizing PvP outside of Trials of Osiris, none of the game modes really got any updates except Trials of Osiris. And I think that really hurt Destiny more than anything else. Because what carried Destiny 1, back when we had big content droughts, where they used to have, like, they had just 3 DLCs a year, you got the game, then you got the Dark Below and the House of Wolves, and then they introduced Trials of Osiris and the House of Wolves. And because there was no raid in the House of Wolves, people got tired of PvE content, and a lot of players jumped into PvP, and Trials was this exciting new thing. PvP was a lot of fun. The Taken King came out, all the vendors got a big refresh, you got new PvP maps. I think you got like 8 new maps in the Taken King. You got new game modes. You got whole new weapons, brand new sandbox. Everything had been sunset, so it was all new guns. Everything was exciting. And then that kind of stuff just stopped happening. Once we got Destiny 2, we got that up until, Shadowkeep? I mean, Destiny 2 launched with double primaries and a terrible PvP to begin with. Trying to make it a more, I guess, competitive focused game that just did not work for Destiny and for what it was and for the fun of space magic. Where I think the most fun Destiny 2 PvP, as silly as it was, for me, might have actually been this, when it was just crazy Shadow Dive nonsense everywhere. As a Hunter main, I had fun with it. It was brainless and mindless, but that's what Sixes was for me. It was fun. And being able to pull off plays like this was a lot of fun to me. It wasn't everybody's favorite mode, and yeah, it got really annoying really fast, sure. But I had more fun doing this than I did sweating out, yeah, 50% win ratio match types in control, where you have to have whatever the meta of the time is, your hand can shoddy or your fusion rifle, auto rifle, pulse, whatever the meta was at the time, you're locked into it. Lord of Wolves meta, trace rifle meta for that short weekend, just whatever it was, you're locked into this. But that's every game mode. There's no escape from it. It's like everything has to be just strict matchmaking. It ruined it. Skill based matchmaking to me ruined PvP in so many ways, which I'm totally fine with it in a more competitive atmosphere, and you have a game mode for that. But when they just took it out of all that, there was no casual playlist. It was just connection based outside of like Rumble, I think, anymore. It ruined PvP for me, because then I couldn't play with friends and have fun, right? Because I'd have some PvE centric players that we would play PvP like Iron Banner or whatever it was and just have fun. Um, and I also had competitive PvP players that I would play like Trials of Osiris with on the weekend, and we'd try and go flawless a few times and have fun that way. But the fact that we lost our ability to just have fun game modes, and I remember at one point in time, Trials of Osiris was the casual game mode because they had like the flawless pool and everything. So if you wanted to play casual PvP, you just played in the non-flawless pool, and that would be your casual fun experience until it got later in the weekend, where like just the players got weaker and weaker in skill because most players had gone flawless, and then it just became people just farming KDs or really, terrible players. So then that lost its fun. But at least it was a card based matchmaking, it was connection based, whatever. It wasn't just like a skill based onslaught at every single turn, whereas Control became that. And the competitive playlist, don't even get me started, that had so many different issues with it. Like there was so many problems with the competitive game mode when it came out for the first, so many iterations of it. When they revamped competitive to have an actual ranked tier system, they throttled your gains and losses based on the elo that they thought you should be in. So if they thought you were a gold player and they established you're a gold tier player, then you could be playing with friends who were an ascendant player. So like that's for Destiny 2, that's like that was the highest rank. So if you were playing with an ascendant tier player and you guys were winning, and you might have outshined all your teammates and got a better KD, more kills, more everything, whatever it was, but you would get 5 points gained where they would get 250 points. Why? Because right now you're in platinum and you're above your skill level, but you're like they're below theirs, so it's trying to pull them to their rank while it's trying to pull you down to yours. And this was the most frustrating thing in the world to me, because I was playing with friends who I'm sure arguably might have been a little better than me, but I would have games where 3 games in a row we would win, and I would get 15 total points, where they would get 700, 800 points combined for the 3 wins. And I'm stuck at 15 points and so far below them that it just made it ridiculous and redundant. And I could never hit Ascendant because of that. Every time I would come close and come within a few points, it's like, no, the game would throttle me and only give me 5 to 15 points per win. And then I lost one game and lost 350 points for a 1 loss after a 6-win streak of 5 to 15 point wins on games. So things like that really soured me on PvP. And it took a lot. Like I've been playing Destiny for 10 years. And it was just little thing after little thing that added up one after the other that ruined that just ruined Destiny for me. It's not fun to play anymore. I'm sure the sandbox is great and that's fun. And the thing is too, I would probably come back to Destiny once in a while and maybe play Trials on a weekend. But for some reason, after 10 years, they're still locking it. They already lock it behind, and I understand this. They want to try and keep cheaters out. So when they ban a cheater, they can't just come in and play it for free because PvP is free to play. I understand having to have to bought the most recent expansion to be able to play Trials. Fine. But if you own that most recent expansion, there's no reason we need to have this leveling system where you have to be like, it's like light levels enabled, right? So if you're not at power cap, you can't compete, because that's ridiculous to players who haven't come back. Say you haven't played Destiny in 3 seasons. Well, you're going to be well under the light level cap, and now you just want to hop into trials with your buddies just for fun on a weekend. Can't do that. I don't know how many times over the last 3 years, 4 years of trials, where I had buddies that just wanted to hop in and they're like, oh, I'm not grinding 100 light levels. Like, I can't even compete. Like, wow, it's requiring more than one headshot with a sniper rifle to kill this guy. Like, do you know what I mean? If you're so drastically under leveled, things like that, they should have got rid of the light level enabled just for trials years ago. It was a cute idea at first. They had it for Iron Banner as well. And in Destiny 1, it was a great way, when people were stuck at Forever 29, the old meme, when you just finished the Vault of Glass and you didn't get all the gear. Iron Banner was a great thing that was brought in, I believe, in the Crota DLC, where people could use that to level up as well. So it wasn't just the raid. There was a PvP side to get that light level gear to get you to max level. But max level in that has not mattered for years and years in Destiny. So why is it still there in Trials? I'm not going to grind to get to max level. I'm just not going to do it. The PvE is so monotonous to me at this point. I don't enjoy it. It's not fun for me doing the same thing and regrinding a new meta. But I would be interested in maybe picking up Destiny on a random weekend and just hopping into Trials with some old friends, shooting the breeze, and, just having a good time. But if I'm going to be at a 50, 100, whatever, however many light levels there is now from this season, I played through the story mode, right? I beat the story mode, but that didn't get me to max light. You know what I mean? And so I'm not going to grind out gear just so I can have fun for maybe one card over the course of a month. I might play one card or two cards. You know what I mean? I'm not going to grind light level just to do that because it's not fun. So there are so many improvements they should have made years ago. And at this point, it's pretty much just too late for Destiny 2. I think the only thing that would bring most players back would be a solid reset button of a Destiny 3. And hold off on bringing back all the old gear of a Last Word, a Thorn, a Galahorn. Don't fall down that rabbit hole in the first year. Like, stop doing that. Give us new stuff. Give us a new sandbox, new everything. Destiny 3 completely fresh. And refrain from bringing back all this old crap. Or give it all to us from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like all the old exotics anyways. Forget legendaries, but exotics anyways. If you want to just have them all there from the get-go, fine. Totally fine with that. But I just am not a fan of just having to regrind old stuff all the time. And it's just like, oh, look, we brought back Galahorn for an 8th time. Oh, look, you can earn the Lord of Wolves again. It's like, no, I'm done with that. Give us new stuff. Give us a new sandbox, completely new maps. And I just don't think we're going to get that. I just really don't think we're ever going to see that. I think they put a lot of their eggs into other games, and the funds that we spend as Destiny players over the years funded all these other projects, some of them that aren't ever going to be completed, and some like Marathon that will. And I hope Marathon's great, and I hope it does well, but we've seen what's happened with Destiny management. I have no love lost for, the higher-ups there that made some really bad decisions. I feel horrible for any game devs that lost their livelihoods or saw the writing on the wall, tried fixing things, and were ignored. Because the PvP issue, they were well aware of it, and Bungie absolutely outright made promises that they did not keep. Where there's a renewed focus on PvP when they first brought back Trials of Osiris, renewed focus on PvP. Oh, but we're not going to make you another map for another 3 years, like not even one. When you used to get 8 new maps per big expansion, and you'd even get Crucible maps in like the little DLCs in Destiny 1. So you would be getting at least like 12 to 15 maps a year. And then we went 3 years without getting one new map. And then it's like, oh, we reprised a map from Destiny 1. Well, why don't you just bring us all the maps back from Destiny 1? You know what I mean? Like when we were in such a drought and they didn't want to give us anything new, reprise a bunch of old maps from Destiny 1. We still never got back Fire-based Delphi. I would have loved to have Fire-based Delphi back. That was when they put out a Twitter thread asking what maps we would like to see brought back from Destiny 1. That was the number one vote I voted for. I want to see Fire-based Delphi brought back. There's a lot of fun maps in Destiny 1 that I would have liked to have played in the Destiny 2 sandbox at a higher frame rate with a better FOV. But it's sad to me because Destiny 2 really was my favorite game of all time. I thought it had unlimited potential. The PvP was such a different thing for me. It was so much fun. The abilities, the supers, the different metas, all made it fun, and they found a way to take something so good and so loved by so many people, and they just let it rot. I don't know if it was greed or if it was just the fact that, well, PvP is technically not monetized. And I mean, I paid for every single expansion and would buy stuff from the cash shop all the time, like different cosmetics, different gear. You know, I would buy all that stuff as a PvP player who only really played this game for the PvP. And I was still buying all that stuff, but they, I guess, looked at it as like, well, PvP is not monetized, so players aren't paying money for that stuff, so we're not going to give them new maps, new game modes, new everything. And the fact that it took them 3 or 4 years to really do anything, of the whole community outcrying saying this is ridiculous, too late, man. And what have they done for Gambit players? Not that there's a lot of them, but there's a reason there's not a lot of them. And I just think there was just so many mistakes made, and it's really sad because, as you saw, I've sunk so many thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. Like, what was it? Probably about, between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, about 10,000 plus hours into these games. And I'm really sad. I spent so much money building PCs just to play this game. It's just, I'm so sad to see that they let it fall into the state it has. And I think if they had always kept that renewed focus on PvP, I don't think they'd be in the situation they're in now. Because every time Destiny had a big PvE lull, or people got bored of the PvE or didn't enjoy the PvP or PvE, sorry, content, people would go into PvP, and because they would bring new stuff in, like new game modes, like the original Rift, not the one that they brought back that I'm not a big fan of, but the original Rift in Destiny 1 that was fun, or the one with the crests, no, not survival, but whatever it was with the crests. It was interesting. It was, it was a different, a Bungie take on a fun game mode. Of course, I loved when we were getting new stuff, and PvE players, when there was nothing to do over there, would go and play PvE or PvP. There was a reason to be there. There was a loot to chase. There was fun things to do, and you would play with friends, and you'd make long-lasting friendships in this game. I had so many friends that I played this game with for 5, 6, 7+ years that all eventually dropped off, whether they were a PvE or a PvP player, but more so my PvP friends, because eventually there was no reason to play it anymore. And I think if you kept that renewed focus in PvP, kept iterating on things, giving people, delivering things that they wanted, giving them that loot to chase, giving them new game modes, new maps, new whatever it is, if you just never stopped doing that, I think that we'd be in a much better situation, because when the PvE gets stale, you have PvP to fall back on until you get something new big out for the PvE players. It worked in the Taken King. It worked in Destiny 1 leading up to the Taken King. It worked for, what was it? The was the big Forsaken, I think it was. I think when they reintroduced special weapons into PvP, like there was a lot of times PvP saved this game, and they just abandoned it for so long that now it's just kind of too little too late for the focus on them. Anyways, Dubious Ones, this was a lot longer of a rant than I anticipated. Sorry, I didn't have a script or anything prepared. I just wanted to give you all my thoughts as a veteran Destiny 2 player that has sunk, like I said, over 10,000 hours into this franchise. Why I stopped playing, and why I don't look forward to any new seasons or whatever they're called now, episodes, or anything coming forward for Destiny. And don't know if really I'll ever really play again, outside of maybe hopping on just to see some old friends and maybe play a match of Control or something. But I don't really see myself coming back to this game. And it was my favorite video game of all time for the many years I was playing it. So it's really sad to say that. I'd really love to see a Destiny 3. But the way things are going with Sony and the layoffs and the cutbacks, who knows if we'll ever get that. I hear we're getting a Destiny mobile game, though. So, hey, Destiny community, what a win that's going to be, eh? Anyways, Dubious Ones, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will let Cartman play us out.
What's going on? This is Cartman. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because subscribing makes you feel good.
Exactly. So, thank you all for watching. I appreciate you. I hope you guys stay well. And if you're still playing Destiny 2, let me know in the comments what's keeping you in the game. Is it the raids? Is it the dungeons? Like, what's the chase for you now after all these years? And if you stopped playing Destiny at any point over the last years, whether it's Destiny 1, Destiny 2, whatever it was, why did you stop playing? Were you a PvP player like myself that just eventually got tired of getting no love from this game for so long? What was it? What was it that stopped you from playing Destiny 2? I would like to know, or Destiny 1 even. I'd like to know what got you to leave the game. But dubious ones, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Oh, and I forgot I have these fun little things that I didn't even use. So, wabam, that's new for the channel. Boom. Smash that subscribe button, y'all. Anyways, we will catch you all in the next one. Until next time, dubious ones, stay frosty.